September 16th, with the Pledge of Allegiance. There he is. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda for today?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. And a motion for approval of the minutes from August 19, 2024.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Great. And we have a presentation by the Fire and Rescue for their mid-year report. And Chief Blankenship is here, along with some of his staff, to fill us in.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Monday. So we're here today to give our mid-year report. We will get started. So this, just a reminder that this report is January 1 to June 30th of 2024. So in that time, we do have an increase in total call volume. As you can see, is pretty much proportional to our EMS. Went from 4674 in 2023 up to 4926, and we've been through the year about averaging about 300 calls more per year, which should end us up about 10,000 calls on the year. Again, as usual, our busiest stations are Station 1 and Station 5. Station 1 is in Shipyard, and Station 5 is at the front gate of Hilton Head Plantation. We did have an increase of fire responses in the Station 7 district this year, which is the one on the Cross Island. Operations, top 4 fire incident types from January to June: activated fire alarms as usual, alarm sound due to malfunction, authorized controlled burning, which is a reminder that we go out and inspect every open burning that is registered on the 2 Saturdays a month, and smoke detector activation. Top 3 medical incidents: a regular EMS call excluding vehicle accident. We're at 3,300 for the year. We've had 89 motor vehicle accidents we responded to with injuries, and 76 accidents without injuries. Our top impressions are generalized weakness, head injury, usually contributed by a fall, and syncope. We do report on our short-term rentals, and I will preface this with, currently in our reporting, this is if the crew believes it's a short-term rental. We are getting with our vendor to make that a requirement to be filled out before the report can be closed out. So Christopher Osterman is working with Fireworks, who is our vendor, to make that a field where they have to do it on every single call so we can have some better data. So first 6 months, we had 42 incidents in known short-term rentals, 70% of those Shipyard, North South Forest Beach, or Station 2 in Sea Pines. We did receive 4 complaint investigations, 3 complaints of open flames or combustible decks, such as a candle, a grill, open fireplace, and 1 complaint related to fire apparatus access being blocked by construction crews at a short-term rental. So all 4 of those were investigated and remedied. Big one for this year. This is awesome. Our cardiac arrest survival rate. You can see on the graph, we're looking from 2013 to 2024. The blue graph is the Ustine survival rate, which is our survival rate, and then the line is the national average. And you can see from 2023 to 2024, the national average has actually gone down about 10%. However, ours has gone up. We're currently sitting year to date today at 70%. So that's witnessed, shockable, cardiac arrest. We're at a 70% save rate, which is phenomenal compared to the national average of 24%. With that, I want to share this story with you. This is a story about a survival that we had, and a son actually doing CPR on his father. So if I could, bear with me.
For every 1 minute that chest compressions are not performed, that patient has a 10% chance less of surviving.
Hilton Head 911, do you have a police, fire, medical emergency?
Hey, I need help. My dad is like choking on something or throwing up.
My name is Zachary Starnes. I'm a senior in high school, and I'm going to Clemson. So it was a Wednesday morning. I remember waking up to my mom screaming. I couldn't hear it at first, and I didn't even know what was going on. So I kind of, took a few more screams to realize it was something urgent. I remember putting on some shorts, and I ran upstairs, and my dad was just laying in bed. I didn't know what was going on. My mom was panicking. We thought it was something with my dad choking, but my mom handed me her phone and I called 911. I got into contact with an operator and told him the address, and he helped me put on a rhythm, and I used that to give my dad CPR for about 6 minutes before EMS arrived.
My name is Kyle Ramsey. I've been with Hilton Head Fire Rescue for almost 12 years. I am currently an FAO paramedic. It was roughly 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning. The tones dropped for a medical call to originally a choking patient. We got to the ambulance and started responding to the call. And as we went closer and closer to the scene, it then got upgraded to an unconscious patient. And then by the time that we arrived at the house, it had been fully upgraded to a cardiac arrest. When we made it into the bedroom, their son was performing chest compressions on his father. We did actually confirm that his father had a pulse right when we got there. So Zach's immediate chest compressions for probably about 5 to 6 minutes before we arrived really saved his father's life. We took over taking care of his father. We did lose a pulse, so we started CPR once again. And through some interventions of airway management, chest compressions, and defibrillation, we shocked his father twice, and we got a pulse back, and he started talking to us.
My name is Nicholas Fernandez. I'm coming up on 2 years next month, currently firefighter, and working my way to be a paramedic. I don't think any of us who were there can say this enough, that I think he was the most integral part of this whole call in saving his father.
He is the real hero in this story.
I really don't feel like I did that much. It was all of us working together, the operator, all the EMS guys, but everyone did a good job, and that's why my dad's here.
Thank you so much to the Hilton Head Fire and Rescue. I am proof that the chain of survival does work. Please learn CPR today.
Good little feel-good story there. Full circle, Zach took CPR with us. He's actually come back and talked to some of our CPR classes to the community, talked to them about how important it is, and it's just, that goes to show this is what we do here. And it starts with that bystander CPR. We say that every time. We don't save anyone without bystander CPR. It is important, and we hope everyone learns it and gets to know. I just want to give a shout out to my social media marketing person, Kenzie Robar, for putting that video together. I think she did a phenomenal job with that. Back into our report, our community risk reduction division completed just over 2,500 inspections, 257 plan reviews. We did 25 car seat checks, 167 smoke alarm checks, taught 372 student CPR AED, and conducted 10 fire investigations. Picture here on the bottom is one of our programs called After the Fire that we conducted at Marshside Villas shortly after they had a fire there. It's just something we go and talk to the community afterwards and let them know what happened in the fire. We allow smoke alarm checks and escape checks for the residents of that neighborhood. Community outreach and recruitment has been very busy the last 6 months. We conducted the Hot Girls Summer Camp, which is hands-on training. Very, very successful. Let me go back. Very, very successful program. We had 20 high school age girls come and join us for a week-long session this summer. The feedback we got from them was phenomenal. The feedback we got from their parents was great. And since we're back in the schools now, the school's back in, and some of these girls are actually doing some of our programs in the high school this year. So very, very successful. We'll be doing that again next year. We also did the Fire Rescue Equipment Academy at the Boys and Girls Club with some of the younger kids. That was a very successful program. They got to learn what we do as firefighters, some of the tools that we use. They got to put their hands on those tools. In the schools, we've got the Red Hot Readers that we're still doing on Fridays. We have our student ride-along program, and we implemented a town staff ride-along program, and Councilman Brown, I know, has also already completed it. See Josh Gruber there, and that has gone over very well. It gives the rest of the town an idea of what we do and gets to ride out with us and learn a little bit more about fire rescue. Marketing and communications, some data there on how we're doing on our social media. Featured on Fire Rescue One Better Every Shift podcast. Our new apparatus media is currently in progress. You'll be seeing that as we roll out our new fleet of trucks. And then some of our top trending posts, obviously the girls camp was huge. The Take Me Back Thursday, some of our training stuff, and our cardiac arrest survivor stories. So in our social media, we're really trying to highlight our people, what we do, and we've also started highlighting some of our retirees and allow them to tell some stories on social media about their time with fire rescue. Our 911 communications, our calls in for service has actually gone down in 2024. You'll see the 2023 compared to 2024, we're intaking less calls in the 911 communications center, which is a good thing. All that tells me with our calls are continuing to go up, we just don't have 20 people calling in a car wreck instead of 1 or 2. Emergency management, always out and about. We had 12 community presentations, 360 attendees, and Tom distributed over 1,200 preparedness guides in both English and Spanish. Our staffing update. So this is, I'll give you more of today's. We promoted the lieutenant of EMS. We filled the vacant 4th fire inspector position, and our candidate pool interviews were held in May, and we added 14 individuals to our current hiring pool. Onboarded 10 new employees, 8 firefighters, 1 telecommunicator, 1 fire inspector. And of those, 3 are local living on Hilton Head. 1 was a skill bridge program that we do with the armed forces. 4 residents South Carolina and 2 outside. So currently we are 2 firefighters short and 1 community risk reduction specialist, which was a reclassified position from community outreach and recruitment. So tentatively 3 short as of today. We hired 2 new med control physicians. Our contract for med control physician was up. We went out to bid. We got Dr. Andrew Matthews and Richard Urbanski, both Hilton Head Hospital physicians. Dr. Matthews is actually the med control physician for the entire hospital. He's come on board as our med control physician, and I can tell you that I've never seen anything like the 2 of these guys. They are in our headquarters, in our stations every week, training our guys, meeting with them, going over some of the calls with them. They're actually out running calls with us. It's been a great partnership, and we're really, really glad to have these 2 guys on board. They will be the driving force behind community paramedicine, which will be the next step of pre-hospital care on this island in the coming years. Dr. Matthews has already implemented that in his former role outside of Charlotte. So he has some history, and we're currently out looking for some grants to get that program rolling in partnership with the hospital and hopefully VIM. Some accomplishments the first 6 months. Fire Rescue is now an advanced level pediatric care service, demonstrating a commitment to excellence in pediatric emergency care and better outcomes for pediatric patients. We received the 2024 Mission Lifeline Award, recognition from the American Heart Association for our commitment and success in higher standards of care for heart attack patients, and conducted an audit of 278 community AEDs to confirm location and ensure all were functional. So we have 278 forward-facing AEDs in our community. We check them monthly? How often?
They have to check them.
Monthly. So they're all checked monthly. We just replaced in Capital last year all of the town-owned AEDs like this one over here, because the other ones were reaching their end of service life. And I think we got about 70 of those out in the community now. So key instrument in our chain of survival. Engine 1, as I reported last year, Engine 1, which is our Quint down here in Shipyard, was involved in an accident on July 4th of 2023. So after almost a year, it was fixed and placed back in service on July 3rd of this year. So almost a year to the date. So as accomplishment for us to get that thing back in service. Fire Rescue was awarded the Fire Safe South Carolina designation for the 5th year since its inception, and that goes to pay accolades to our community risk reduction. It's everything they're out there doing in the community with inspections and prevention. Senior firefighter Max Peterson and firefighter Kiefer McBurney were recognized by the Hilton Head Rotary as the 2024 Firefighter and EMT of the Year. And completed some CIP projects, like I just said, the AEDs you can see there. We did install a new computer-aided dispatch, our CAD system, in May. That is the system that intakes the call and spits out what we should be responding. So 911 call comes in, 911 telecommunicator inputs what's going on. That is the system that then tells us what to send and where to send it to. We also installed our new station alerting system in all of our stations. That was completed in May, replacing the previous 20-year-old system. I will say that was fully funded by Beaufort County. That was a county-wide initiative to all fire stations within the county. We were the first ones to receive it. Since we already had station alerting, we were slated to replace it. They went ahead and did us first, and we're fully up and running with that. New pumper fleet. So again, thank you guys for your continued support in our fleet replacements. We have received 5 of the 8 pumpers. They are in service today, and it's just a little picture of them. They're great trucks. The guys love them. We've been out doing a lot of training. Probably 3 of them were on a fire this morning. So they are out and about and functioning. Some current initiatives we're working on: continuous improvement through our 2024-2026 strategic plan, looking at our staffing, professional development, and community outreach. We have internal committees put together that are looking into all these initiatives. Working with town staff to plan for a new fire rescue headquarters to bring our headquarters and 911 communication center in EOC under one roof into a hardened building. So that is an initiative right now. We're in lease space in our comm center in EOC at Hilton Head PSD 1, and we'd like to get that all under one roof all together in a hardened building. Still working on placing our pumper fleet into service and preparing for the new Quince to arrive at the end of 2024, and working on some training center improvements. The big one for that is we're building a classroom on the training center, because right now we're actually seeing a decrease in the number of people we're teaching CPR to just because we don't have the place to do it. We're competing against ourselves, whether it's training for our guys or CPR training. So we need another space, and we're actually looking at reaching out into the community to find some spaces out there to take that on the road. Again, thank you for your continued support for Fire Rescue, and open to any questions you guys may have.
Well, thank you for a great report, and the presentation was spectacular. Really nice job. Patsy, would you like to start with any questions?
Not many questions, but thanks. And my husband quotes his late father as saying, always impressed, but never surprised. So thank you very much. The community outreach is great. I love seeing the young women come and participate. So thank you for that program and continuing it, and what you do with school-age kids during the year and Boys and Girls Club during the summer. So it's really important. And that 70% survival rate is pretty impressive. And I'm wondering if that has to do with the number of stations that we have, as well as the CPR, talking someone through it on the side, as you say. If there's somebody there, then increases the likelihood of success. So whatever you're doing, thank you, and keep doing it.
Thank you.
Alex?
Sure, thank you. Chief, I did participate in the ride-along program, and thankfully, we didn't get any calls for 2 reasons. One, no one was in need of service, and they didn't have to tell me no to driving the truck. No, I was overly impressed with the time that I spent with your folks. 2 things sort of stick out to me. One's a very simple thing. As they were taking me through a tour of the trucks, there was one particular item. I guess when you hook up to a fire hydrant, there's like this little swivel thing that you hook up to that all the fire hydrants on Hilton Head have, from what I understand. but they were so amazed because that's not always the case in communities. Typically, the truck is taking this low swivel device with them, then hooked into a fire hydrant, then hooking up to the truck. So the fact that you all have found opportunities through grants to provide time-saving equipment when it comes to emergencies, that's just so impressive. And they were so excited about a fire department that does that in a municipality. So I wanted to just share that with everyone. And the other thing that I want to mention was just the camaraderie and the family-like environment that those folks offered when I spent time with them was just simply amazing. It's a tough enough job as it is, but to be amongst folks that you like and have a good time with while you're waiting to do the service, I think is just so important. So hats off to you and your leadership team for keeping folks motivated all the time. So, great experience. I recommend to everyone in the community to try that ride along, and particularly us here in council. I think you'll learn a lot as you go through that exercise.
Good, thank you.
Steve?
I'd like to second Councilman Brown's commendation of the work of the fire department. It's impressive. It's good for the island to have the reputation of having such outstanding services for EMS, which is a concern for a lot of people as well as fires. A couple of questions. Your report indicated that you had 3 deck fires. Are grills permitted on outdoor decks of multifamily buildings?
So I don't think they were fires. I think they were complaints.
Complaints.
So grills are not permitted in certain multifamily. Like a townhouse it would be, but a multifamily that someone is above you, they're not. So a lot of times the complaints we get are someone burning a candle or a grill or like a chimney on something like that, and then we go out and investigate those. But I will say grill fires is a common occurrence of ours for fires. I think that's something that we're going to be looking at. Last year, the data showed previously that it was our kitchen fires. I think you're going to see that skew to our grill fires, and a lot of those are the built-in grills in these large homes that whether they're not built properly or they're left on, stuff like that. But that's one of our big risks, I would say. But for those 4 things, those are just complaints.
I noted that the overall 911 calls have increased and that many of them seem to be EMS as opposed to fires. Are we having more people fall down, more people hit each other in cars?
So I think what you're seeing this trend over 20 years. Our 20-year data shows that our call volume has gone up 60% in 20 years, and it correlates completely to EMS. So on one hand, people age very well on this island and down here. So our community, I believe, is getting older. Some of us are. I think we're having an influx of more year-round residents, but our data does show that we are serving our residents more than anyone else. So it is our residents that we're going to. So yes, I think we're getting older. You'll see in my annual report, we'll actually break that down. 64 and older is about 86% of what we do. So I think it's an older population that we're going to.
My last question or comment relates to response times, which you have laid out extensively here for a whole variety of circumstances. Most of them seem to be very good. You're doing better than the standard, and there's a few that are not. Are there any steps that can be taken to deal with those few that are not at the standards?
Absolutely, and that is, we believe our new CAD and our new station alerting are going to show that those times are going to get better. They're newer systems. They're not as antiquated as our old system, so you'll start to see those things trend to the better. Our call processing time, that's something that we're going to look at. That's from the time that the 911 telecommunicator picks up the phone until they dispatch the first unit. We have actually slowed that down intentionally. So we don't just automatically send someone emergent to every single call. We process the call, and we'll talk about EMS calls. We'll process the call. If it's a cardiac arrest, yes, they're going out the door right away. If it's chest pain, difficulty breathing, those are immediately dispatched. If it's a fall, let's say, we'll get some more information. It's going to take longer to determine if that is an emergent call or a non-emergent call. We're running more non-emergent calls than we ever have because we're slowing that down, getting the information and determining if that is something that we need to have the risk of running lights and sirens or sending 2 units to, or is it really not life-threatening, not that emergent, and we can send a single ambulance non-emergent no matter where it's at on the island. So that is something, yes, that we're constantly looking at. And Christopher Ostrom back here, my battalion chief of strategic planning, is constantly looking at our data, and we're looking at ways to improve that.
Thank you. I appreciate your responses and the excellent job that you and the department are doing.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again. I also wanted to take a second and thank the young man who was so prepared and was able to assist. That chain of survival that you talk about is critical. And I encourage, along with the ride-alongs that Councilman Brown mentioned, that everyone do the CPR training. It is the first step in making sure that we have a successful outcome, and you guys are so prompt and prepared. It's particularly impressive. I also wanted to speak to just a moment about your resiliency. This is not an easy job. And I also want to commend you all in the fact that you show up at some of the most difficult times and situations that any of us could imagine. And you do it day after day. And without you, we'd be in a totally different place. And yes, I always get emotional talking to you guys because I know firsthand that without you, things go south really fast. And I'm just going to share a little bit of information that I received in the past, Steve, with regard to fireplaces and barbecues. They should be 10 feet away from your house, minimally. All of these barbecue kitchens that are out there that are being built, they're so beautiful. 10 feet away from your house helps to preserve your home and your life should something not go right in the future. And I'm going to wait until your next report to talk about anything else, but I was just going through the incidents by risk and the significance versus the level that you guys attribute them to, and I find some of that information to be very interesting. But without belaboring it here today, thank you for all the hard work. I hope the community takes advantage of everything that you're offering. Fire and rescue on Hilton Head has always been amazing, top notch, always the best. But you guys recently, last several years, taking it to a totally different level, and we truly appreciate it. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, so we have some unfinished business to attend to. We have a consideration of a resolution adopting environmentally friendly landscaping grounds maintenance practices, integrated pest management policy. And we have a presentation this morning by JT Jett, our Chief Environmental Officer. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to bring the draft of the latest IPM to you for your review. Since our last meeting, the Community Service and Public Safety Committee on April 8th, town staff has worked diligently to revise the policy based on valuable input that we received. The revisions we've made address the concerns and recommendations put forth by the committee, and we believe they significantly advance this policy. We also appreciate the feedback from members of the public, including Ms. Conte and Ms. Evans, which has helped refine our approach. I understand there may be a few additional items that they would like to have addressed, and I'm sure that we will get to those today. But to review some of the changes that we're currently presenting to the committee are as follows. We moved several items from the guiding principles section to the procedures sections as it was more appropriate for those items to be listed there. We clarified that existing contracts will be brought into compliance with the IPM policy as soon as possible within 12 months of adoption of the policy. We prohibited the use of glyphosate on all town properties, all town-owned and managed properties where the policy applies. We required notification of pesticide applications for all applications of pesticides. We prohibited the use of pesticides with any known carcinogen and defined known carcinogens. We prohibited the use of non-organic pesticides within 25 feet of water or marsh edges. We differentiated notice requirements depending on broadcast and non-broadcast applications. We clarified that EPA Level 1 pesticides can be used when other methods do not adequately control the pest and is only deemed necessary to protect public health and economic loss. We required signage for pesticide application notifications to be a standard size of 3 square feet in area. We modified signage, requirements to include chemical information and links to the town's IPM policy and schedule. We designated facilities director or qualified designee as having approval authority. We required application records to be provided to the town. We reworked the definition sections to be in alphabetical order and align with the state law defined terms, and added references to the state requirements as directed by the town attorney. At this time, I'd be happy to address any questions the committee may have regarding these changes.
Thank you. Steve, we'll start on this end. Alex, do you have any questions?
Not at this point.
Patsy?
Yes, first of all, Mr. Jett and also Mr. Langer, thank you very much for working with the community and with me to make some improvements to the last iteration of the policy. And really appreciate that work and the positive energy going forward to try to find a way forward. Right now, we don't have anything, some instructions to contractors. So having a policy in effect is going to be a market improvement, and we really appreciate that. In addition to the things that you mentioned, there are 3 main policy objectives I've always had. That is to reduce pesticides as much as possible. And there are a lot of things in this policy that does that. There are a few tweaks that the community representatives are asking for, and in a minute I want you to address those. But also key is the notice to public. And so the changes that have been made since the last policy are market improvement over the previous draft about notice to public. And the third is that the town policy should control and the staff should make the decisions and not the contractors, because that's where the policy lies. And that's the important part of it, is that we maintain control over what happens. There are a couple of other things that I noticed in the revised draft. One is with regard to the contracts with licensed contractors. So clearly when a new contract comes up, we can include required compliance with this policy. But there's some other provisions in here now that say that if the existing contracts don't, then we're going to terminate those contracts within the provisions of the contract itself. So then the new policy control. So I like that, because I was worried about existing contracts and how we can have the policy apply to existing contracts. So I appreciate that as well. I was trying to write down some of the other positive things that I saw since then, and I haven't written them all down yet, but as we go through it, perhaps if there's some more that I want to point out, but I do appreciate the improvements. I think I would like to find out staff's response. The community group has asked for a few more revisions, and when I looked at them and we asked that they mark up the current draft that was sent out to the committee, and the committee's received a copy of those requested revisions, some of which are repeating in a different way the same language, maybe a little preferred language, especially with regard to guiding principle about people and children and dogs and parks. And I think that language, I don't think is substantive. It's more stylistic and the way the words are used to emphasize. There's another phrase that was mentioned, and that is taking out a phrase, least toxic approach. And as I understand it, and folks who are active in the community and know, it's been a long time since I took chemistry in high school, so I don't pretend to understand all the chemicals involved. But least toxic approach is a code word or a signal phrase. The suggestion that's made is to be, instead of using least toxic approach, to say the following approach, where we set out what the approach is. So there's no, as a retired attorney, I don't want there to be a conflict in language about which controls. So to say the following approach is to take out conflicting language and signal words. Because if you use least toxic approach, there could be 3 really toxic things, and you just choose the least of those toxic things. So it's clarifying language. And I think that the staff can respond to those suggested revisions, and then the community representatives here can talk more about why those revisions are important. And the last one that I recall being suggested is to combine 2 of the categories, that is, if I turn the right page, to combine beaches, parks, dog parks, athletic fields, and playgrounds, instead of 2 different categories, to combine them in one, so that the same approach is used for both of them, because that's where we have children and dogs and folks using those facilities. So that's the reason behind that, is combining them so it's the same approach as opposed to 2 different ones. So I think they make sense, and I look forward to hearing staff's comments about it and the community's comments about it. And I would urge the committee to seriously consider these requested changes, because I think with that, we are to the place where we can adopt this policy. This committee can recommend the full council adopt a policy and move forward, so it'll be more than ready for the spring season next year. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Patsy. And I see that we have an approach here. Sean, do you have something?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Sean Leininger, Assistant Town Manager. So as was referenced by Mr. Jett and Councilwoman Bryson, we did receive late on Friday some changes from the community, some continued changes from the community. Having received those late on Friday, we haven't had a chance to dive into great level of detail into what some of those impacts of those changes might be. Some of them are familiar to us. We've seen them in past comments that we received from the public. Yes, to your point, some of them are semantics, but there are some key differences in like the guiding principles in reference to a pest control advisor. Our policy doesn't reference that we would necessarily bring a pest control advisor on staff or as an independent contractor. That ultimately may be something that we do in the implementation of this policy, but we left ourselves some flexibility, as this is something new for us to begin to operate and implement, and we can work through that as we begin to do that. Some of the other changes are more substantive. While I appreciate the approach of describing it as the following approach, there was some reason for how we crafted the least toxic approach. There is best practice out there where that language is used in other best practices. It also makes it clear to our staff, to our contractors, about what our approach is. Now that is fully more developed within the policy itself and tells everybody we have an organics first approach. However, if we don't receive the results that we would like to receive or expect to receive with organics, we will then move to the lowest level, and I have to look to TJ because I don't pretend to be an expert, and that's the lowest level, level 3 of a synthetic pesticide, to now try to get the results that we would like, and then so on and so forth from there. And when we look at our parks and athletic fields, we did purposely treat them different than playgrounds and dog parks. Our parks and our athletic fields, we do have a certain standard of care that we are trying to achieve that is different than our dog parks and our playgrounds. They're also used differently. And so we do have a different path forward in that playgrounds and dog parks would be basically an organic policy, and then the next level would be a level 3, a caution of a synthetic pesticide. For our parks and our athletic fields, we have some issues that we're dealing with currently in those fields that we give ourselves a little bit more runway. Again, following that approach, our goal is not to go right to level 2 or to a harsher chemical. It is to begin with an organic. Let's try and get a result with an organic. If we don't get the result that we want, we may put additional organic down to try to get the result that we want. But if we don't receive that result, we have the ability to move on to the next one. That is a significant change to how we currently do business. We did hold all of these policy directives and goals very near and dear as we crafted this policy. And I think as you go through and we can check all those boxes, although there's some things in there that maybe some would not like, there's some things in there that maybe others don't like as well. I think we've accomplished our policy directives as we've laid this out. But long story short, we did receive some of those comments, that feedback, but to go through and tell you exactly, like, we could do this, we could not do that, we just simply haven't had the time to work through some of those things. But from a big picture, that's kind of where we are as we see some of the words on the paper.
Yeah, Madam Chair, a couple of comments. I appreciate the timing. I think the community, certainly I didn't receive the current draft until I think it was Thursday of last week. So timing was immediate response. You mentioned a pest control advisor. That's not included in the requested change. I know that had been discussed in the past, but the copy I'm looking at does not suggest adding a pest control advisor that I've seen. A copy from the community request for some revisions. In fact, the changes are only on 3 pages. The first page, the third page, first and third pages.
If I could, Madam Chair, so in the change on page 1, so it's attachment 3, page 1, the edit to number 3. If you look at the last, towards I guess the second to last line of that change, it talks about by a licensed pest control advisor and town staff.
Oh, that's a different thing. Okay. Yeah, it was a different kind of advisor that was previously discussed. Okay, that's what I was talking about. So of that change on page 1, the paragraph 3 under pest management guiding principles is the only problem the staff has with including a licensed pest control advisor. Is that the only problem?
Again, that is our point of concern. But again, going through this line by line, I'm not prepared to go through and fully evaluate this at this point.
So I think
Picking out that phrase would be okay then.
So I think hearing that the staff received the requested changes on Friday, and here it is Monday morning, and not having time to do it, I would say that this is not the best environment to go through the changes and debate them at this moment. I'd prefer to give staff some time to look at those requests and then circle back and bring it back to us with their comments so that the community has been fully heard and staff's had an opportunity to evaluate, and we can make our decision to move it forward when it's prepared to everyone's satisfaction onto town council.
Madam Chair, I think we ought to hear from the community first.
Yes, no, we're definitely going to hear from the community. I'm just making an observation that between this conversation that I just heard, there seems to be some additional time that's needed. So let's listen to the community, add that into the context, and take it back to review it. And before I do that, I neglected earlier to acknowledge that we have our Mayor, Alan Perry, and Councilman Ames and Councilman Stanford in the room as well. And thank you for joining us. We've had 2 great conversations, important information, both from fire and rescue and now about the pest management. So I'm glad you're here all to listen. So with that, do we have any public comment? Anyone who wants to speak? Is there anyone who signed up, Zendaya?
Yes, ma'am. Kim Conti.
Kim?
Good morning, you guys, and thank you so much, Sean and Jet. Since their involvement, we've taken a drastic step in the right direction. It's been great to work with them. The toxicity, there's so many really powerful things in this policy that we're really proud of and we're excited to have move forward. But again, the devil's in the details. So the toxicity part is our concern. Caution is the least drastic EPA signal word, but 2,4-D, glyphosate, dicamba, those are all caution. And we've worked so hard that those are chemicals that we want away from our kids, away from our wildlife. I think all of us have seen the Olympics in Paris, and Paris has been pesticide-free. So not even organics. They're using new tech. They're focusing on soil health, and they've been pesticide-free since 2017. And the city was beautiful. And there's 50 other towns in the UK that are organically maintained. And Hilton Head is and should be the leader in this space. I think a lot of people move here, they visit here, they vacation here because Hilton Head prioritizes the natural beauty. So we want to prioritize it also from a chemical exposure standpoint. You know, we want our athletic fields free of pesticides. I don't want my children playing on baseball fields that are utilizing known carcinogens. And I love that they have that aspect to it. But if we don't include reporting, how do we know that we're avoiding carcinogenic pesticides? So we did discuss the importance of an annual report just to see how we're doing. And staff was sharing that they would, you know, communicate with each other. But our job is to also bring forward organic, new tech, new things to keep the policy going and you know, make it something that is marketable. I know the chamber's really excited about moving in this direction, but the EPA themselves shared that, let me see if I can read my writing, it's so small. Okay, so EPA claimed, they said too many pesticide formulas exist to check all for safety, especially ingredients that could harm humans, plants, and wildlife, because they never test the inert ingredients. So this is that one piece. If we can just use that language regarding toxicity, then this policy, we would be so celebrating, and we don't want to come bug you guys every time there's a meeting. You know, we want this to move forward. We all appreciate everything that you guys have done, but the EPA signal words does not equate to safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Any others? Anyone else signed up?
Yes. Pamela Martin Evans.
Morning, Pam.
For the record, I'm Pamela Martin Evans. What I had prepared to talk about was, this is thanking you for passing it with our changes. There are 2 paragraphs, basically, that I think if we read them to you, you could all understand what they meant. They're not difficult. And I'm sure you're aware, as am I, that the meetings, your meetings for October, November, and December have been canceled. So that if you don't pass it today, we won't have anything until the next year. And I really don't want to believe that that was someone's idea all along. Not yours, but someone else. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Pam. Are there any others that have signed up?
No, ma'am.
Is there anyone who's here today who's heard the discussion who wants to have a moment to speak? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for your time on that, and we'll bring it back to the dais. And
Madam Chair, I have two alternatives to suggest. One is we need to move this policy forward. We need to have this in place by next spring. As Pamela Martin Evans just suggested, we have limited number of meetings of this town council before the election, and then after the election, December is a swearing-in ceremony, January is a retreat. It would be well into the spring of next year before this policy would be considered again. So I want to move this forward. And I think there's 2 options. One is we can move it forward as drafted with requests for staff to respond to the requested revisions by the time it's put on the town council agenda. And I'd ask the mayor to put it on the agenda as soon as we can so we can consider it. And then the other option is to not do that, not take any action, And the third, I said there's two options. There's a third that I just thought of, and that is not taking any action, which I disagree with. And the third is to adopt it with the requested revisions, to recommend adoption, move that forward. So those are the three options I see. I'm taking out the middle one. I think we should take action because we need to protect our community. We need to protect the children and the animals and our residents and our visitors from toxic chemicals, which are now being used on property that the town owns, and we need to take some action. If we are to believe that we are an environmentally friendly community, it is time to take this important step in doing that. And I think we ought to take action. And I want to hear comments from the other committee members as to which of those two remaining options are to be considered.
Would you be kind enough to clarify your middle one?
Sure, the middle one is to do nothing.
For the time being, not permanently.
That's clear.
I'm taking that one off the board. So one is to recommend that it move forward to the full town council as drafted, as presented by staff, with a request to town staff to report to the full town council on the requested revisions prior to that town council meeting where it's on the agenda. And the other option is to accept the requested revisions and to move it forward with those revisions as requested by the community.
Anyone else want to jump in here? Alex?
I've got another question for staff, if I could. Ms. Laniger, I think I'll pose this question to you. Obviously, we've been having this discussion for a while. I'm sure that staff has learned along the way. Your initial responses to some of the additional changes leads me to believe that there may be some unintended consequences or budgetary restraints or whatever it is that may give you all some concerns. I'm curious to know, since we're going from nothing to something, will this give us the opportunity to have more qualified conversations moving forward about those unintended consequences?
Yes, absolutely. If we were to adopt the policy as proposed by town staff and operate and implement that, we will learn a lot along the way. We will know what works, what doesn't work, and where we can get, where maybe we went too far, but also maybe where we can go farther and get and add some more of the things that I know the community is looking for. This is a living document. This is a dynamic document. While we're trying to set it right this first time, we also recognize that as we get smarter and utilize the document, we can do better with it. And that's actually a big component of the policy itself. Towards the back, we talk about how we're going to continue to analyze and evaluate, how we're going to have public outreach. You heard about an annual report. We didn't specifically list an annual report, but we're going to have public outreach and show people and show the community how this works and how it doesn't work. So this is very much a living document that we will learn from and get better from.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, with that response, I'm inclined to move with Councilwoman Bryson's, I guess that's third option, if you take the middle one out. Give staff some time to review the changes and respond to that when we get the full council. Again, I want to put emphasis on the fact that we have nothing at the moment, nothing, okay? So for us to wait another 3-4 months to move something forward, I don't think is acceptable. So I would support the option number 3.
Okay.
I would second that motion.
Okay. All right, and I think that what I'd like to add to that is several months ago, we had a chance to get something done for this year so that we weren't waiting a full additional year with all of these hazards that folks are concerned about, and I appreciate. And I wish that we had. So if the staff is okay with the draft as they've presented it to us as being workable, I would also like to move the draft ahead. And as was just explained, this is a living document. The additional information can be reviewed and assessed to see how that it can be incorporated into what we currently have before us. And then we'll also have time for some of the results to play into that conversation. So I'm happy to entertain a motion to move the this drafted policy forward to the full town council for consideration.
Chair, I thought I heard Mr. Alfred second a motion made by Mr.
Well, I
Brown.
didn't hear a motion, and I didn't have my opportunity to speak, so while that may be true, now's the appropriate time for that, so thank you for the observation.
I was looking at our clerk as well.
Yes, I was just going to ask, may you please clarify the motion for the record?
So if someone can make the motion, that would be fine at this time.
I want to make sure which one you are supporting. Is it the one that we move forward with as drafted with request to the staff to look at the revisions requested by the community?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we all agreed on that.
Is that clear enough, Madam Clerk? Okay, I'll try it again. I move that the committee recommend to the full town council adoption of the policy as drafted by the staff, with a request to the town staff to review the requested revisions from the community and to report to the full town council at that time. Second.
Thank you.
So Councilman Alfred has seconded the motion. All in favor? Oops. All right. Thank you, everyone, for all the hard work that's come through on this. We appreciate the time, and we are adjourned.